This morning, here's what we know about the shootings. 33 people were left dead, including the gunman, who has not been publicly identified. More than 24 others were injured. Classes at Virginia Tech have been canceled today, and counselors are on hand. A special convocation is planned by the university this afternoon. And we begin our coverage this morning with CBS News Justice correspondent Bob Orr. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Harry. Well, it's an awful morning after here. As you mentioned, the gunman is dead. His weapons now are at a ballistics lab, the ATF lab in Maryland, and police are still trying to figure out what triggered the whole thing. At the same time, the students and the faculty here at Virginia Tech are trying to come to grips with a massacre which took 33 lives.
By the time the bullets stopped flying, 33 people, including the gunman, were dead. 24 more were injured.
Today, the university was struck with a tragedy that we consider of monumental proportions.
The deadly rampage began just after 7 a.m. Monday when two people, a man and a woman, were shot and killed inside a dorm room at West Ambler Johnston Hall. Police thought that shooting began as a simple domestic dispute. But 2 hours later, on the other side of the campus, a wholesale slaughter. 31 more were killed, including the gunman, who witnesses say calmly and methodically mowed down students and faculty members inside Norris Hall classrooms. Derek Odell was shot in the arm.
He came into our class, shot the person that was sitting next to me, shot our professor. Then I hid under the desk, and then he proceeded to shoot everybody else in our class, practically. There were probably 15 to 20 people in our class, and he shot maybe 10 to 15 of them.
We heard gunshots next door, and I knocked over desks. Other people pulled the screens off the windows and jumped from the second floor, so I could see the people in front of me land and, hurt their ankles or legs.
The shooter, an Asian male who was armed with 2 handguns, shot the victims at close range after police say someone had barricaded the building by locking 2 doors with chains. Police are not entirely sure the 2 shooting scenes are connected. A so-called person of interest identified at the dorm is not the same gunman who took his life in Norris Hall.
We're actively pursuing all leads in this investigation to determine whether they are or not related.
Why is the person of interest not in custody?
Because they're a person of interest. We don't have a crime to charge them with.
Meanwhile, Virginia Tech is being widely criticized for waiting 2 hours before locking down the campus after the first shooting. In fact, by the time officials sounded sirens and posted website warnings, the killer had already begun carrying out the second deadly rampage that now has left this university community stunned and anxious for answers.
Sources now tell us that police have identified the gunman. He is a young Asian male. We believe he was a student, but police have asked us not to release his name yet. They're still executing some search warrants.
All right, Bob Orr, thanks so much. Great job. Do appreciate it. Virginia Tech President Charles Steger has been out front since we first heard of this tragedy. A short time ago, I asked him about it.
Well, we know that it is an Asian male who is a resident on the Virginia Tech campus, and that's all additional information I know at this point in time.
A resident on the campus?
He lived in the dorms.
Okay, so presumably he was a student.
Yes.
All right, that's all you know?
That's all I know at this point.
When did you first know yesterday morning?
Well, there were 2 separate events. I was told a little bit after 8 o'clock that there had been a shooting and they were trying to gather information. I think at about 8:25 or 8:30, we have a crisis management group that got together in my boardroom. The police came and briefed us on what was going on. And at that time, it appeared that there was an incident between 2 individuals. It could have been a murder-suicide. We just didn't know at that point in time.
Right.
And then we proceeded to try to find other witnesses and then decide what to do next with regard to classes, etc. Now, immediately upon the 9/11 report at about 7:15, the police responded. We closed the dormitory, surrounded with security, cordoned off the road, and notified the students in the building.
When you're in that crisis meeting yesterday morning, was there any thought, maybe we better shut this place down?
Well, we always consider that option, but we were advised that this looked like an incident that was confined to that one dorm room.
Right.
And then while we were discussing getting the notices out, we send out simultaneously 36,000 emails.
Sure.
While that discussion was underway, then the second shooting came across the radio.
Right.
And that happened sometime around 9:20 or something like that.
There's so much pain on this campus right now. There's outrage, there's anger, there's fury, and a lot of it is pointed at the administration, and they feel like not enough was done to protect the students and the faculty and the people who work here.
Well, first of all, you can understand the anger and the rage. Secondly, we have to act on the information we have at that point in time, and we believe we have acted appropriately.
Right. Have all of the families of not only the deceased but the injured been notified?
I do not know at this point. I know they were working on it all night, and I'll get a briefing here at about 6:30 this morning.
Right. Have you had a chance to personally process any of this?
I think I share the feeling that a lot of the families have. We're really in a state of shock, and I think we will certainly try to analyze what went on. We're focusing on two things. One is to get a complete picture of what actually happened. We still don't know that. And secondly, to be sure that we provide the support to these families, anything that we possibly can do to help them.
You've not had a chance to mourn?
No, I think that will come later. We are now focusing on trying to manage this problem.
Dr. Secker, we thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Do appreciate
Good.
it. Right.
Virginia Tech senior Zach Pekowitz was sitting in Norris Hall in a classroom when the shooting started. It's possible that he and his classmates are still alive because of what they did next. Good morning. Thanks for taking the time to speak with us. Really appreciate it. You guys had no idea that this guy was out and about.
No, I mean, after the initial gunshots, we just thought it was some construction at first, and then once we heard a girl scream, it all set in.
You were in a classroom. What happened next?
Basically, we heard the first few gunshots, didn't quite register what it was. Then we initially heard a girl scream, and two of the girls in my class looked out the hall and saw a guy coming out into the into the hallway with a gun pointed down to the ground. They slammed the door shut and just told everybody. Everybody kind of went into a panic, didn't know what to do. I hid behind the teacher's podium and then realized, there's nothing blocking this door. He's just going to come in. So I said, we need to barricade this door. Two of my classmates got up and helped me, and we just held a table there. And he eventually, meanwhile, all these gunshots are going on. He eventually came to our door, tried to open the door, didn't go, so he tried to shoulder his way in. Got the door open about 6 inches, and we all had to slam it back shut on him. And that's when he put two bullets into the center of the door, thinking we were up against it, trying to close him out. And he then reloaded. I was right against the ground, right against the door. He reloaded his clip, and I thought he was coming in for a second round. But for the grace of God, he just kept going and didn't try to get back in there.
How many kids were in the classroom?
There's 11, including me.
How are you doing this morning?
It's all kind of surreal. I'm just still kind of setting in, It's hard.
The adrenaline that must have been pumping through there. I mean, your life was really at stake, and so are the lives of those other kids. Could you describe could you see his face? Could you see what was his demeanor?
I didn't hear a word from him, and I didn't see him at all. I was just trying to push that table up against that door.
Right. Did you have a chance to talk to your parents, to your loved ones? What kinds of things did you talk about last night?
I mean, they want to come and get me, but I just need to be here with my friends and just kind of work it out on my own.
Yeah. Have you broken down since last night? You're beginning to realize, it looks to me like you know what almost happened to you. This community has been hurt in an awful, terrible way. I can't imagine any of you had any idea that anything like this could ever happen here.
I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be in a situation like that.
You're one lucky guy to be alive, and the folks who are in that classroom have you and your friends to thank for thinking fast on your feet. Thanks for taking the time to just speak with us this morning. Take care of yourself, all right?
Thanks.
Okay. Zach Pekowitz. Until Monday, Virginia Tech was known mostly for its highly rated engineering program and its powerful football team. The violence left thousands of students here searching for answers, just like Zach, or at least looking for some comfort.
I am weary.
Every pew was filled at St. Mary's Catholic Church Monday night as the Virginia Tech community sought to understand the madness that attacked their campus. From time to time during the Mass, there were audible sobs. People came here looking for answers, looking for peace.
It went from something so minor to so catastrophic in minutes, and it's just hard to take in.
Did it help to come to church tonight?
Yeah, I think it did. I usually am not a churchgoer. I'm one of those Easter and Christmas kind of girls, but it felt right to be here tonight with everybody else. So,
the Lord be with you.
Father Rob Cole has celebrated Mass many times before here, but never under circumstances like this.
This has got to be a test of faith for everybody.
Absolutely. God's love is deeper than we can even imagine, and it's times like this that that sometimes we're tested, but we can't give up. That our Lord will provide if we just trust in Him.
One student at the Mass stood up and said, "We need your prayers."
I had to keep from crying at several points, but whenever one person hurts, we all feel it, and when a lot of people hurt, it's that much worse.
Perhaps the people at St. Mary's found some answers, but on campus there was still confusion. Some students we met had tried all day to find their friend, a resident advisor.
Yeah, the hardest part has been that we're unable to get any information at all. And I know there's a lot of other students here with similar friends and similar circumstances who are having just as much trouble.
And no news was not good news.
The uncertainty is just, it kills us. I mean, the worst scenarios just rush through your mind, and there's no alleviation of that until we have some real information about what exactly happened.
We've got a number of students here, including the student body president that we want to talk with, including Adil Khan. We've got Mark Demetrio, Jason Klein, and Ben Anderson. Thank you all for taking the time to speak with us. All of you have been touched, even you, Adil. You knew students who were killed yesterday.
I did. Through several students, I knew some students that were killed, and it's definitely starting to sink in now that we found out some of their faces and putting their faces with the names, and we've definitely been affected by this. And whether or not knew a student closely, everyone here is family. Everyone is a part of this Hokie Nation, and we definitely feel for every student here.
Yeah, Mark, you knew one of the students who was hurt initially very early yesterday morning.
Yeah, I knew the girl in the dorm just through a good friend of mine. So as soon as I heard there was a shooting in the dorm yesterday, I gave him a call to see if her and her roommate were all right, and that's when I heard the news that she was shot, and I didn't find out until later in the day that she passed away. So just to know that people on campus, just great kids that go here, were being shot and killed in such a senseless act, it was really hard to make sense of all that.
Yeah. How are folks coping when you're away from the camera, when you're back in the dorms or back at your apartments? What are people saying to each other?
We really have a tight-knit community here at Virginia Tech, and everyone is trying to pull together to get through this tragic event. And, everyone, I believe, yesterday was in such a state of shock, but today we're really trying to come together, see what we can do to help. And I know tonight there's going to be a candlelight vigil at 8 p.m., so, we're all going to come together to that and see what if we can help this grieving process.
Is there any way for you to express what this is like? Because this is something you watch on television. This is something that happens someplace else. This is something that doesn't happen to most of us.
Here, the saddest part about it is that it really takes a tragedy like this to make you appreciate life so much more. I have two fraternity brothers, two close friends of mine. They were actually supposed to be in one of the classes that was shot out the other day, and one of them just simply slept in. The other one was out of town, and it makes you really appreciate the fact that maybe there's someone looking out for you.
Yeah. It's very interesting. As we've been here almost 24 hours now, the shock is starting to wear off on me. It certainly must be wearing off on everybody else.
That's where you'd sort of
you sort of disagree. I disagree with you in the sense that we're now finding out the names, and we're finding out those students who are just like us, students that we care about. And I think the shock's starting to set in, especially for those students who've already responded to this and have tried to gather people and start the relief effort immediately. The student government has already planned a vigil for tomorrow night, which we mentioned already, at 8 p.m., and it's going to be on the drill field. We expect over 40,000 students to be there. Yeah. One of the reasons that I came out today was sort of to request from merchants across the country if they could bring candles down here. We've cleared out Blacksburg, we've cleared out the local area, and we don't have nearly enough. And if anyone could offer their help, we'd really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for taking the time to speak with us, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We've heard from students who were shot and others who have helped save lives, but the terror of Monday morning affected many more people here, even if they never saw the gunman. Scott Hendricks is an engineering professor at Virginia Tech, and he has 2 children who are students here as well. His office is in the building where most of the killing took place. How are you doing this morning?
I didn't sleep last night. It hasn't sunk in.
Yeah. Can you describe what your experience was like yesterday morning?
Well, I got to the office about 8 o'clock, and about 8:30 my wife, who was volunteering at the local middle school, called me and said their police officer just left to go investigate something happening on Virginia Tech campus, a double murder.
Right.
And that's the first information we had that there was anything going on that day.
Yeah.
That was what happened over in the dormitories. I went down to check with my colleagues and secretaries and see if anybody knew anything that was going on, and nobody had any idea, that nobody had heard anything. We had no idea there was any event going on that day.
Yeah.
I went back to my office about 9:30, and I was working in my office when I started to hear gunshots. And they were coming from just below me on the floor below. I looked out the window, and I saw some students crawling away from the building. I found out later they had jumped out of the windows and hurt their legs. I called 911. The police, they were already aware of the situation. The police showed up very shortly after that and surrounded the building, and the SWAT teams took over. And then for the next hour, I was hunkered down in my office. I barricaded the doors, and I waited to see what would happen. And I heard probably 40 to 50 shots go off during that time.
My God.
And then I waited till the police broke down my door, and they patted me down and then said, go down the stairs and run, and I did.
Right. You heard shots? Was there screaming?
I didn't hear the screaming.
Right.
I didn't hear the screaming from where I was, but I heard the shots going off just all over.
It's so interesting because there's this initial murder on campus, and the reaction has been, why didn't people know? Are you feeling some of that too?
Well, I don't want to second guess the authorities on that. I think they're professionals and they do what they think needs to be done. I really don't want to second guess.
Have you had a chance to be with your children, students here?
I've been with my children. I've contacted some of the students I know, and I've talked to some of my church community and tracked them down and found out they're okay. But I have lost 3 colleagues that I know are dead.
My God.
That's quite a shock. One of them I had just barely passed in the hall before I went in the last time. He was the last faculty member I saw, and I found out he was dead this morning. It's hard to deal with.
Yeah. You think about Blacksburg, this is a pretty place. You're in the Blue Ridge Mountains here. No one's prepared for anything like
I've been here for 28 years, and this has been such a serene, peaceful, quiet, lovely place to live. And I can't imagine it happening here.
Yeah.
That's just...
I have a chance. I asked the college president about grieving. I don't think anyone's even had a chance to even begin
It's
to
way
step
too early.
toward that.
It's way too early to begin that process. So the grieving is going to take a long time. I can't imagine going back in the classroom right now.
Yeah. What will you do the rest of this day?
I'll be home with my family. I'll be continuing to check on people. I will go to the convocation at 2 o'clock. I think that's important that we get together. And then I'm just going to vegetate.
Yeah. We thank you for taking the time and just coming to tell your story. We really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
All right, do take care.
People who were shot by the gunman are not his only victims. Others on campus have their own emotional wounds. Let's talk about that with psychologist and early show contributor Robin Goodman, who joins us this morning. Robin, good morning.
Good morning, Maggie.
We've heard from some of these kids today, and on their face you can see the pain is so raw and runs so deep. How do you even begin to recover from something like that?
One thing is you have to realize that it's normal to have this intense reaction. You're responding to both the trauma, which makes you feel out of control, panicky, even angry and irritable, but you're also dealing with tremendous grief, and that combination is extremely difficult to manage.
Let's look at the things that you say are normal. You say that we can expect emotional reactions like anxiety, shame, guilt, also some changes in behavior, adolescents especially, you say may start abusing alcohol or engaging in other risky behaviors. How can we, parents, therapists, friends, address these issues?
Well, what you need to do is try to get them back in some kind of control, and the very first things you do are very simple. Provide a sense of safety and routine and comfort and support. Being with other people, making sure they're not alone, even simple things like eating a regular meal, going to Starbucks for a cup of coffee together, something that starts to re-engage you in your regular life, that helps you deal with this terrible feeling of like terror and flight or fright that you had.
What about kids who were nowhere near Virginia Tech but see this on TV, hear about it from their friends? Should we try to shield them from it or encourage them to watch and talk about it?
If they have seen something, make sure you talk to them about it. But we know the closer you are to an event, the more at risk you are. It's the exposure. And we now know, especially for children, even just exposing them through the TV can make it difficult for them. They think it's happening over and over again. They also think it's going to happen in my backyard. They personalize it and then start to worry for their own life or the safety of the people around them.
So what if your child thinks that? What if your child says, Mommy, is a crazy man going to come to my school and shoot me? What do you say?
Well, exactly. You do the same things that you would do with the people that are there. Provide safety, comfort, hugs, and then help them go about their routine so that they see that life goes on, it's normal, you reassure them, and then also maybe kind of also make sure that you find out, did you hear anything, ask them any questions, and you have to model feeling calm and in control, and that's one of the best things for them.
That can be difficult because, and I may be asking for personal advice here, as a parent, you want to be able to feel that you can send your child to school without worrying about this sort of thing happening. How do you keep events like these from consuming you with worry?
Because what you do is you start to realize the things you can have control over. So, make sure they wear seat belts. You make sure that the medicine cabinet is locked. You help them with their homework. You have a smoke detector. So you let them know that I am here to take care of you and I am going to keep you as safe as possible. And then if they are scared, you find out exactly what they're worried about and help them take care of it right away.
Get through it together.
Exactly.
Robin Goodman, thanks as always for being here.
Monday's tragedy at Virginia Tech was nowhere near the first of its kind. In the last 40 years, there have been dozens of school shootings around the country, and each time, Americans have been shocked by the unexpected violence. August 1st, 1966. After having killed his wife and mother the night before, Charles Whitman ascends a 27-story tower on the campus of the University of Texas at Austin and randomly begins shooting whoever's in range. Whitman kills 15 people and wounds more than 30 before he is shot dead by police. December 1st, 1997, Paducah, Kentucky. 3 students are killed and 5 are wounded by high school freshman Michael Carneal as they take part in a morning prayer circle.
It's a terrible thing, and I'm sure that it's going to rock the community.
March 24th, 1998. 4 students and a teacher are killed and 10 are wounded outside a middle school in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The shots are fired by 2 students ages 11 and 13.
Everybody was falling, screaming, and crying.
April 20th, 1999. 2 seniors known as the Trenchcoat Mafia attack Columbine High School in Colorado. The hour-long rampage is one of the deadliest in American history, leaving 14 students and 1 teacher dead.
Everyone around me got shot, and I begged him for 10 minutes not to shoot me.
And then, last year on October 3rd, 2006, Charles Carl Roberts enters a 1-room Amish schoolhouse in Nickel Mines, Pennsylvania. He releases the male students and then shoots 10 females, killing 5, finally turning the gun on himself.
I never thought it would happen in a peaceful community like this.
So we look at this history of mass murder and we wonder if it's possible to stop these shootings from happening. Pat Brown is a criminal profiler. Good morning, Pat.
And good morning, Julie.
Is it possible to profile these killers before they strike in hopes of preventing such massacres?
Well, there is a difficulty in trying to say this particular person is going to commit a crime like this. However, we do often have a lot of signals that are sent out, like in Columbine. These guys were out there talking about it, and there were stockpiles of weapons in the house. Somebody knew something, but the problem is a lot of times these things are minimized by the people around them. They just say, "Oh, well, he's just talking crazy," or it's okay that he actually acts this way. In other words, in our society, we've accepted a lot of very bizarre and bad behavior. That violent ideation doesn't seem to catch people's attention as much as it should, where people go, "Whoa, what is he saying?" Kind of like if you're in an airport and you say, "I have a bomb in my suitcase," that ideation will get you nailed right to the floor right then. But if you're someplace else and say that, a lot of times people just shrug their shoulders and say, "Oh yeah, he's talking about guns, he's talking about this, he's talking about that." Parents ignore it. The friends just say, "Well, he's just being weird." Even teachers sometimes will just say, "Oh, he should just talk to a counselor." This is serious ideation. We ought to take it, really, when they start talking about it, we ought to be paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. Pat, at this stage of the investigation, can you profile for us the person responsible for yesterday's killings?
Well, they're saying if these are connected killings, the first event and the second event, that this man was angry. There was a love problem here, and he went and shot his ex-girlfriend, and that's what started it all. But, a person who goes and shoots that many people, 30-some people, he's not just about his girlfriend. This is a psychopath who's angry at society, just like the Columbine kids, wants to make his point, wants to have his day in the sun, wants to take out as many people as he can and inflict as much pain as he can on the community. So this has been his nature for many, many years, and that's the problem. We're not recognizing this violent thinking in these kids that are out there, and that we are allowing these weapons to get into their hands. And I'd like to know where he got these. I want to know if he got them off of a relative or where these things came from, that he would have these. And we need to start doing something about our societal problem. It is a huge problem right now.
It absolutely is, and we have to stop being so desensitized to it all. Criminal profiler Pat Brown.
That is exactly right.
Thank you, Pat.
Thanks.
Virginia has very few gun restrictions, as we've been reporting, and Monday's incident raises the question, would tighter gun laws make a difference? Paul Helmke is president of the Brady Center to Prevent Gun Violence, a leading gun control group. Susanna Hupp lost her parents in the 1991 massacre at Lubby's Cafeteria in Killeen, Texas. She supports carrying concealed weapons. You are both joining us live, and we thank you and we welcome you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Paul, let's begin with you. As you know, Virginia Tech is just the latest in a long list of mass shootings in this country. Do you think these things are happening because there are too many guns in the United States?
It's clear to me that what we're doing now is not working. It's too easy to get too high-powered weaponry too easily in this country. It's been 8 years since Columbine. We've done nothing as a country. It's been 6 months since the Amish school shootings. We've done nothing as a country. We need to be asking our elected officials what they can do to prevent people from getting these kind of high-powered weapons.
Susanna, you were with your parents at the Lubbies when a gunman opened fire, killing them and 21 other people. Some would think that that would make you a bigger gun opponent, but instead it propelled you to being a very staunch gun supporter. Why?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I've got to tell you that my heart just is so sickened and saddened by this event. My heart just goes out to those people. I've been there, I've done that, and I know what they're going to be going through. But it angers me, too, because I do think it was largely preventable. I do agree with my counterpart on that. But I think it was preventable in a different way. I don't understand why in fact, it amazes me that our politicians don't get the fact that these mass shootings only occur in places where guns aren't allowed. They occur in gun-free zones. Think about it. Columbine, he mentioned, post offices, daycare centers, other schools, universities. Why are we removing my teachers' right to protect themselves and the children that are in their care?
Susanna, you say that if you had had your gun the day that your parents were killed, you could have been able to make a difference. You believe that?
There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that things would have been different that day. And I believe in this particular scenario, when Virginia Tech apparently stood up in front of a hearing and said that they didn't want people to be able to protect themselves on campus, at that point they had the responsibility and the liability to protect those people, and they didn't. You basically are creating a shopping list for a madman. Somebody who wants a high body bag count goes to a gun-free zone.
Let's bring in Paul on this, because those are pretty controversial comments. What's your response?
Well, actually, it's a legitimate point that's raised. And part of the thing is we have politicians who don't even want to talk about any of these options, whether it's more guns, less guns, tighter controls or not. Most politicians just run away from this issue, and we need to start asking them what their proposals are. And maybe there's a way to even fit some of these things. Maybe if you've got strict licensing and permitting and registration, then you might be able to have more guns. But actually, these killings occur all sorts of places. Fairfax, Virginia police station just 11 months ago had 2 police officers killed at the police station. We make it too easy to get these guns. Let's prevent these folks from getting these guns in the first place. Then we can argue about how best to react when they're coming into the shooting. If they can't get that gun with that high-powered clip that's shooting off that many rounds that quickly, then we're making our community safer.
I think that's the one thing that we can all agree on, no matter where we stand on this issue. We don't want guns in the wrong hands. So, Susanna, what is wrong with gun control? What's wrong with laws on assault weapons, background checks, gun registration?
Well, let's make it very clear that there's a confusion out there. He did not have automatic weapons, from what I understand. He had semi-automatics, which means that he basically had to pull the trigger each and every time he shot somebody. He could have had revolvers, for all that mattered. The point is that people need the ability to be able to protect themselves. When you make gun laws like this, it only takes the guns out of the hands of the normal, sane people, if you will. It keeps them from protecting themselves. None of the mass shootings have occurred in places where guns were allowed. You don't see these things happening at NRA conventions or the dreaded gun show that you all talk about.
Paul, what do you think about that?
Actually, they ban guns coming into gun shows. It's interesting. You go to most gun shows and they post a sign you can't bring your weapons in that you carry. The evidence shows that basically places that have more guns are going to end up having more violence. Cities, communities, homes, states, countries that have more guns end up with more violence. We need to prevent people from getting these guns in the first place. And even with a semi-automatic, one thing is do an assault weapons ban, stop high-capacity clips. A semi-automatic weapon, you can get off 25 rounds in under 15 seconds, generally, if you know what you're doing. It's just a finger twitch. It's not a single pull each time.
Susanna,
this person obviously had high-capacity clips.
Hold on, Susanna. Let him finish.
But it's basically, we've proposed a number of things over the years, whether it's assault weapon bans, background checks, extending the background checks to all sales. In Virginia, you don't have to go through a background check if you buy from a non-licensed dealer, a non-licensed seller at the gun show. Ban these high-capacity clips, ban the guns, the military-style weapons that can do these sorts of things, stop multiple sales of handguns, look at registration and licensing.
Okay,
There's
Paul.
a lot of things, but nobody has done anything.
Let's get Susanna's take on this in the last 20 seconds. How do you keep the guns out of the hands of the bad guys?
I don't think you can. But I do think, any more than you can keep machetes or chainsaws out of their hands, I do think that you can allow people to protect themselves. Because if you don't, things like this happen. You cannot name me one place where a mass shooting has occurred where it wasn't in a gun-free zone. I want my children protected. I want my teachers to be able to protect themselves.
All right. Thank you very much,
Other
Susanna
countries have been able
Paul
to do
Hemke.
it, so.
Sorry, Paul Hemke, we are out of time. We appreciate it. We have not heard politicians address this too much, and they're, I'm sure, going to wait to hear how this gunman obtained his weapons. Thank you both.
As you've heard, the Virginia Tech campus was in complete chaos on Monday, but students were able to keep in touch with their families and each other on the Internet. CBS News science and technology correspondent Daniel Seberg is here with more on that. Daniel, good morning.
Good morning, Russ. That's right. Websites that are normally used for socializing are now allowing loved ones to post questions and messages of grief in the hopes of finding some answers to this devastating tragedy.
It was just complete, total chaos. We were all so frightened.
That's Madison Van Dyne, a Virginia Tech student who was locked down near the shooting. And this is her Facebook.com page, a website many college students use to stay in touch. A day with so much confusion, sites like Facebook became a place where students went searching for answers and each other, some with frantic appeals to friends to see if they were okay, or acting on behalf of distraught family members. In some tragic cases, virtual memorials were created. For Madison and many others, the web and cell phones provided a lifeline.
I think it would have been 100 times worse to be sitting in a classroom not knowing anything. We had no television in our classroom, and so the web just became our television.
But the official university site was not always available, often overwhelmed and providing only short updates. So students took the matter into their own hands. From shortly after noon onwards, a handful of them kept the student-run news site up and running, even while under lockdown.
I actually had people crowded around my laptop just to watch the news and the updates as they unfolded.
During the shooting, sophomore Kevin Cupp was in a classroom near Norris Hall, acting as the site's webmaster. I spoke to him via webcam not long afterwards.
This crisis was obviously so chaotic in the first few hours. How important was it to have your website and others up and running?
It was very important. I mean, when something like this happens, I mean, the first thing you want to do is just find out as much as you can about it. And shortly after all this happened, I got tons of calls, text messages, emails from friends and family all around the country, just wondering if I was all right.
In fact, Kevin says Planet Blacksburg was flooded with students and families all day, more than 100,000 visitors. Many of those people will continue to tap into the web, though they may not always discover what they're looking for.
You know, these social networking websites like Facebook sometimes get a bad rap for potentially exposing college students and young kids to sexual predators online. But this is a clear case of how they can act as a positive place to come together in the virtual world.
Daniel, can anybody get on these websites to send messages or
You can
whatever?
create a profile on Facebook, but to be part of the Virginia Tech conversations, you need to have a Virginia Tech email address.
I see.
So that's part of what keeps it part of this isolated community and draws them together in a sense.
You've got some examples of what you're talking about right
Yeah,
now.
this outpouring is continuing today and will continue for the days to come. Ben writes, pray for Virginia Tech, the students, faculty, friends, and family of those deceased and injured. Show your love tomorrow by sporting your orange and maroon, the colors of Virginia Tech.
I see.
And another one here, this is from Chris, and he writes, I, on behalf of all Virginia Tech students, would like to thank not only those in these groups, these websites, but those across the nation that have voiced their concern and heartfelt feelings. He talks about some of the other things as well and says, today we are all Hokies. The mascot is part of Virginia Tech.
That is stuff. Daniel Seberg, thank you very much.
You bet.
The Virginia Tech shootings are a nightmare for parents who are now wondering how safe their child's college campus really is. Early Show national correspondent Hattie Kaufman is here with a look at that. Good morning, Hattie.
Good morning, Julie. You can bet that college campuses around the country are re-examining their safety measures this morning. Most often, campus security is concerned with assaults or break-ins. Well, now they'll be focusing on something much more horrific.
The mass shooting at Virginia Tech illustrates a basic security challenge all campuses share, their openness.
If somebody wants to commit an act of crime or violence, our campuses are very open all across this country.
After Columbine, high schools added security features like perimeter fencing, but college campuses are simply too big for that.
Here you have a campus that has over 2,600 acres, which is gigantic. Your average elementary or high school campus might be from 5 to maybe 40 acres.
The University of Southern California has some of the toughest security around. Yet even here, anyone can enter the campus.
USC is like a small city with over 30,000 combined students, and we're an open campus in the middle of Los Angeles.
How do you keep that safe?
We keep it safe doing what we can with over 220 personnel to patrol this campus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
At many universities, including USC, it takes a special card key to enter the dorms. Here, there are motion detector cameras and a command center, where on this day, news of the Virginia Tech shootings was constant.
But incoming freshmen are not told what to do if there's a shooter on campus.
That's an extreme situation that I don't know if we specifically would talk about shootings on campus.
This is the time of year parents take their kids on college tours. With security now on everyone's mind, experts say there are some questions parents should ask. Are there academy-trained police officers? Are they armed? Is the campus patrolled 24 hours a day? What is the crisis management plan?
If you can have lockdown procedures where kids can shelter in place and there are good solid locks on the door so that people can't come through. I mean, those are the kind of responses that you can do.
At Cal State Fullerton, they know all too well the dangers of a lone gunman. 30 years ago, an armed man killed 7 people on campus. Today, there's a memorial to the victims. There are uniformed officers on patrol and undercover cops in the classrooms.
If somebody were to create an environment such as what happened today, that our officers would respond with much higher firepower than they used to carry.
Typically, college students feel invincible, but the latest news has them feeling scared.
It really does scare me because the campus is supposed to provide, safety and security.
When something like this happens, it's like, where are we going? What's going to happen in the future?
Campus police want to remind worried parents that these are extremely rare events, so rare, in fact, that incoming freshmen often aren't told what to do if there's a gunman. In fact, Julie, here in California, they're more likely to be told what to do if there's an earthquake.
I know, I had that drill going to USC. But are colleges doing anything to try and screen out potentially dangerous students?
Yes, actually now, starting this year, colleges around the country, several hundred colleges, will have a question on the application form that specifically asks the student if they've ever been convicted of a crime or disciplined in high school.
But they could always lie. They almost need to put some sort of penalty in place, like if caught lying, automatic rejection to the school.
Yeah, and really, can the schools do background checks on every single incoming freshman?
It may get to that. Patty Kaufman, thanks so much.
Okay.
As we've been reporting, 32 people were killed by a gunman at Virginia Tech in the nation's worst shooting rampage. The investigation is just beginning, but people are already asking, how could this have happened? CBS News correspondent Bianca Solorzano has more.
2 people killed in a Virginia Tech dormitory. More than 2 hours later, across campus, 30 more were shot dead in a classroom building. So why weren't students warned after the first deaths? Virginia Tech students we spoke with want answers.
And how they can justify having someone killed on campus and to ask the student body to live their daily life like nothing had happened.
Campus police say after the shootings in the dorm, they believed the shooter was gone and didn't see a need to lock down the campus.
And we concluded first that the incident in the Ambler Johnson was domestic in nature. In fact, we had some reason to think the shooter had left the campus.
More than 2 hours later, Virginia Tech sent out an email saying the university community is urged to be cautious. But the warning came too late. Minutes after the email went out, the second round of shootings began.
You have an unknown shooter at large. You warn everybody, you keep them in the most secure locations.
Daniel Carter, an expert on campus security, says email isn't always read immediately. He urges schools to send text messages to cell phones.
Every college and university campus in this country needs to have the text messaging warning system in place.
While questions remain whether lives could have been saved, some experts say increased security can only do so much. What's crucial is to spot the signs before a shooting happens.
The shooters tend to let off clues or veiled threats that people who know what they're hearing could potentially bring to the attention of others. They tend to be smart young men who have failed socially and are looking for ways to change the way people remember them or think about them.
Whoever is responsible for the deadliest shooting in U.S. history will be hard to forget. Bianca Solorzano, CBS News, New York.
And school shooting expert Catherine Newman stresses that people need to come forward and report any threats or suspicious activity in order to prevent these massacres.
Well, the tragedy at Virginia Tech touches all of us in some way, and many of us are asking, where do we go from here? Let's ask Dr. Phil McGraw, psychologist and host of the Dr. Phil Show, if he thinks we can learn anything from this. Good morning, Dr. Phil.
Good morning, Julie.
Can we learn anything from Monday's horrible massacre?
Well, Julie, anything that's learned, of course, is not worth the price that has been paid for it. This is unquestionably one of the worst tragedies in American history. But I think what it does say is that we have to realize that we're living in a different era now, that there are people that are capable of this kind of violence. They have the ability to do this in terms of guns. And we have to shift gears, just as we did after 9/11. You know, as a country, we had to shift gears because we said, okay, now we have terrorism that is on our shores. Well, okay, so now we have to just continue to let our innocence wane. I mean, when you look at Columbine, when you look at what's happened in Jonesboro, and now this, it's just a reality, and it will continue to happen.
Yeah, that's so unfortunate to hear. But Dr. Phil, how do the students of Virginia Tech even begin to cope with everything that has happened so far?
Well, Julie, first off, we just have to talk about these things. Look, there is so much that these young people don't anticipate right now that's going to happen in their lives. Right now, they're in a bit of shock, and the adrenaline is pumping, and the media is there, and so there is a lot of distraction to this, and they're caught up in the moment of survival right now. What I worry about is the silence that follows when all of the media leaves and things settle down and they start realizing and kind of playing that what-if game in their mind. What if I had been in that classroom? What if I had turned the corner and run into this person? What if I hadn't jumped out of the window? And that's when you start having these flashbacks, you start having trauma, you start having post-traumatic stress disorder. These are things that can happen, and the way to get around that is to deal with it, to give it a voice, to talk about it, to come together as a student body, to go to your church, to talk with your family, to realize it's not a weakness to seek counsel. It's not a weakness to go to someone else and give your feelings and your emotions a voice. Don't try to deal with this alone.
What about the parents, the siblings, the friends out there this morning, friends of people who have perished? How do they begin to cope with everything that's going on?
Well, Julia, of course, right now, what they're going to experience is anger and outrage and confusion. And the best thing in the world that can happen for them right now is for people to close ranks around them and to give them that comfort, whether it's through prayer or just putting an arm around their shoulder. But what they need right now is information. One of the most frustrating things that I always hear from victims in tragedies such as this is that they're locked out of information. They're given little bits and pieces of information instead of people getting out front of it and giving them everything they know. You don't want to give misinformation, but you don't want to leave these people in the dark. They're going to have questions about why this campus wasn't locked down. They're going to have questions about why their student went to school to get a peaceful education and wound up dead. There's going to be a lot of these outraged parents that have questions, and information can help. President Steger, they did what they knew to do with what they had at the time, but they're going to have to provide information and answers right now to these parents so they can find some comfort in that.
As a nation, Dr. Phil, we're all affected when something like this happens. We all feel like we're Hokies this morning. Where do we go from here as we try to recover from such emotional stress and this horrible tragedy?
Well, Julie, one of the things that my mind turns to is how I have a son in college, as you know, and as a parent, I think about this when I hear this sort of thing. And one of the things we have to do is not be oblivious to the kind of mental illness, mental disorder that is out there right now. There are people among us in our schools, in our society right now that are capable of doing this kind of thing. And oftentimes they give indications. There are warning signs, but we just don't respond to it. We don't see it because we can't wrap our minds around it. And the best way to protect our children and ourselves is self-protection. We have to become aware. We do have to use technology to let people know if there's a dangerous situation going on. We have that technology, but the best way to protect a child is to teach him to self-protect and be aware.
Dr. Phil McGraw, thanks for your view this morning and your thoughts.
We have new information to release concerning the ongoing investigation into Monday's fatal shootings. State, local, and federal investigators worked through the night collecting, processing, and analyzing evidence from within Norris Hall. Based on their hard work, we have been able to confirm the identity of the gunman at Norris Hall. That person is Cho Song-hui. He was a 23-year-old South Korean here in the U.S. as a resident alien. Cho was enrolled as an undergraduate student in his senior year as an English major at Virginia Tech. Cho was in the U.S. with a residence established in Centerville, Virginia, and was living on campus in Harper Hall. A 9mm handgun and a .22 caliber handgun were recovered from Norris Hall. Ballistic tests on the evidence seized from Norris Hall and the West Ambler Johnston residence hall scenes were conducted at the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives lab in Maryland. Lab results confirmed that one of the two weapons seized in Norris Hall was used in both shootings. All of the deceased have been transported to the medical examiner's office in Roanoke for examination and identification. The names of the 32 deceased students and faculty will be released once all victims are positively identified and next of kin are notified. I want to follow up on discussion from yesterday about the person of interest from the first shooting at the residence hall. That individual was an acquaintance of the female victim that was killed at West Ambler Johnston Hall. He was stopped in his vehicle off campus and detained for questioning. As officers were interviewing him, the shootings at Norris Hall were reported. We are still looking to him for information as the investigation continues. We also have no information at this time to relate the on-campus bomb threats made in the last 2 weeks to either of yesterday's events.
As you know, we are continuing to work to try to comprehend and understand the terrible tragedy that occurred on the campus yesterday. We send our thoughts and prayers to the families and friends of our students. Virginia Tech will cancel all classes for the remainder of the week to allow students the time they need to grieve and seek assistance as needed. The university will reopen administrative operations beginning tomorrow. We will close Norris Hall for the remainder of the semester. Staff are currently working to arrange alternative locations for the classrooms and for faculty offices. Counseling and other resources are available for students, faculty, and staff, and students may receive counseling at McComas Hall, and counselors will be available for extended hours. The university will be holding a convocation this afternoon at 2 p.m. in Castle Coliseum. This is the first time the university community will come together since this tragedy has occurred and to share our collective sorrow. President George Bush and First Lady Laura Bush, Governor Tim Kaine and Mrs. Kaine, members of our Board of Visitors, members of the clergy, our stewards, and poet Nikki Giovanni are going to share some messages of condolences to the family and friends of victims and words of hope to all of us as we move forward.